The woman standing in her living room was the most beautiful person Zara had ever hated on sight. Lee Yuna moved like water, fluid, graceful, and capable of drowning everything in her path. She wore a white designer dress that probably cost more than Zara's first car, her black hair swept into an elegant chignon, her porcelain features arranged in an expression of polite disdain. And she was holding Sora, Zara's daughter, in this stranger's arms. "She has your eyes," Yuna said, her accent crisp and cultured, not even looking at Zara. Her attention was fixed on Cian-ho, who stood frozen in the doorway, his face a mask of barely controlled fury. But everything else is him. She'll be beautiful when she grows up. A perfect Kong. "Put my daughter down." Zara's voice came out steady, but her hands were shaking. "Now." Yuna smiled, a thin, condescending curve of her lips. "You must be the accountant. The one who somehow convinced my fiancé that she was worthy of bearing his children. I'm his wife." Zara stepped forward. "And you have 3 seconds to put my baby down before I show you exactly how unworthy I can be." The room crackled with tension. Cian-ho moved first, crossing the space in 2 strides and lifting Sora from Yuna's arms with a gentleness that contrasted sharply with the murder in his eyes. "How did you get in here?" he demanded. "Your security systems are impressive," Yuna acknowledged, smoothing her dress as if she hadn't just been caught holding someone else's child uninvited. "But the Lee family has been breaching impressive security for centuries. You should know that by now, Cian-ho. After all." She tilted her head, her smile widening. "We're going to be family." Welcome back to part 2 of this dramatic story. If you haven't watched part 1, go back and watch it first, link is in the description. And if you're ready for the finale, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on because this story is about to get wild. Let's get into it. The emergency family meeting was called within the hour. Zara sat in Cian-ho's study, Sora clutched protectively against her chest, watching as the key players assembled. Imani and Taejun arrived first, the twins in a double stroller, both looking alarmed. Several of Cian-ho's most trusted lieutenants followed, their faces grim. And Lee Yuna sat in the corner like a queen holding court, completely unbothered by the chaos she'd caused. "Explain," Cian-ho said, his voice ice. "Explain why you broke into my home and touched my daughter." "I didn't break in. I was let in." Yuna examined her perfectly manicured nails. "Your housekeeper, Mrs. Park? Her daughter owes significant gambling debts to one of our establishments in Seoul. She was very cooperative." Zara's stomach turned. "You blackmailed our staff?" "I leveraged existing relationships." "There's a difference." Yuna finally looked up, her dark eyes sharp. "But we're getting distracted from the main issue. I didn't come here to play with babies. I came to collect what's owed to my family." "Nothing is owed to your family," Cian-ho said. "That's where you're wrong." Yuna reached into her designer bag and produced a folder, old, worn, clearly containing documents that had been preserved for decades. "This is a blood contract, signed by your grandfather and mine in 1962. It promises the firstborn son of the Kang main family to the firstborn daughter of the Lee main family. The union would combine our empires and create the most powerful syndicate in Asia." She placed the folder on the desk. "Your father tried to ignore this obligation. He married your mother instead, hoping our family would forget. We didn't." Her smile was sharp as a blade. "When your mother died, we waited for him to honor the agreement. He refused. So we waited for you to come of age. You ignored our overtures. So we waited more." She spread her hands. "The Lee family is very patient, Cian-ho. But our patience has finally run out." Zara's mind raced. A blood contract from 1962? That was over 60 years ago. Surely it couldn't be legally binding? But she was starting to understand that in this world, legal and binding were 2 very different things. "I'm already married," Cian-ho said flatly. "Married?" Yuna laughed, a tinkling sound that set Zara's teeth on edge. "You're not legally married. I had my lawyers check. You're living together, yes. You have a child together, yes. But there's no marriage certificate, no official union. In the eyes of the law, and more importantly, in the eyes of our traditions, you're a free man." The blood drained from Zara's face. She looked at Cian-ho, remembering what he'd told her months ago. He'd wanted to wait until everything was settled, until there were no more threats. He'd been protecting her by not making their union official, and now that protection had become a weapon against them. "I will never marry you," Sean-ho said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "I don't care what contracts exist. I don't care what my grandfather promised. I love Zara. She is my wife in every way that matters, and nothing you do will change that." How romantic. Yuna's expression didn't flicker. "But this isn't about romance, Sean-ho. This is about power. About legacy. About debts that must be paid." She stood, smoothing her dress. "You have 1 month to honor the agreement. Divorce your accountant and marry me. If you refuse, the Lee family will declare war on the Kang Empire. And I promise you, we will win." She walked toward the door, pausing beside Zara. "I don't hate you," she said, almost conversationally. "You're simply in the way. Nothing personal." "It's very personal to me," Zara replied, her voice steady despite her thundering heart. "And you should know something about accountants. We're very good at finding weaknesses in contracts. Very good at following money trails. And very, very good at destroying people who underestimate us." Something flickered in Yuna's eyes, surprise maybe. Or the first stirring of respect. 1 month, she repeated. Then she was gone. The moment the door closed, chaos erupted. "We have to fight this," Taejun said immediately. "We can't let her." "Fight how?" One of the lieutenants shook his head. "The Lee family controls half of Seoul. Their legitimate businesses alone are worth billions. And their illegitimate ones. I don't care how powerful they are." Imani stood, Marcus on her hip, her expression fierce. "They don't get to walk in here and demand our men. This isn't the 1800s. We're not property." "In their world, contracts like this are sacred," another lieutenant said grimly. "Breaking a blood oath, it's unthinkable." "Then we need to think the unthinkable," Zara said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. She was still holding Zara, her mind working through the problem the way it worked through any complex financial puzzle. Find the inconsistencies. Follow the trail. Identify the leverage points. She said this contract was signed in 1962, Zara continued. That's over 60 years ago. A lot can change in 60 years. A lot can be hidden. A lot can be found. Seon-ho's eyes sharpened. "You think there's something wrong with the contract?" "I think contracts like this don't exist in a vacuum. There would have been negotiations, considerations exchanged, promises made on both sides. What did the Kang family receive in return for this blood oath? And more importantly, did the Lee family actually deliver?" Silence. "I never thought about that," Taejun admitted. "The contract was just legend. Something our father mentioned when he was angry, when he wanted to remind us that we had obligations. But I never saw the details." "Then we need to see the details." Zara looked at Seon-ho. "All of them. Not just the pretty folder she showed us, but everything. The original negotiations, the terms, the exchanges. If there's a weakness, I'll find it." Seon-ho's expression softened with something like wonder. "You're not scared." "I'm terrified," Zara admitted. "But I'm also very angry. And you once told me that no one threatens your family." She lifted her chin. "Well, that woman just threatened mine. So let's destroy her." For the first time since Yuna had appeared, Seon-ho smiled. "This is why I love you," he said. "I know." Zara smiled back. "Now, let's get to work." The next 2 weeks were a blur of investigation. Zara had faced complex cases before, embezzlement schemes that spanned continents, fraud operations that had fooled the best auditors in the business. But nothing compared to unraveling 60 years of Kang Lee family history. She worked around the clock, pausing only to feed Zara and catch a few hours of sleep. Imani joined her, revealing a research talent that surprised them both. "I used to dig into my ex's social media like a detective," Imani admitted. "Turns out those skills transfer." "To what?" "International crime family genealogy. Everything transfers if you're petty enough." Despite everything, Zara laughed. The breakthrough came on day 12. They were in the mansion study, surrounded by boxes of old documents that Seon-ho had retrieved from a secure storage facility. Most of it was useless, business records, property deeds, old photographs. But buried in a box labeled 1960 to 1965, Zara found something interesting. A letter. Handwritten. From Kang Jun-seo, Seon-ho's grandfather, to his brother. "Listen to this," Zara said, translating the Korean with help from a dictionary app. "The Lee family has agreed to provide the following in exchange for the marriage promise: 100 million won for immediate business expansion, exclusive shipping rights through Busan Port," and she stopped, her eyes widening. "And what?" Imani leaned forward. "And the complete transfer of all Lee family holdings in Incheon within 5 years of the agreement." Zara looked up. They were supposed to give the Kang family their Incheon properties. That's huge. Incheon is one of the largest port cities in Korea. Did they do it? Zara started digging through more documents, her heart racing. It took another 3 hours, but she finally found what she was looking for. A legal dispute from 1967. The Kang family had sued the Lee family for breach of contract, claiming the Incheon properties were never transferred. The case had been settled quietly, too quietly, with the Kang family dropping their claim. They never delivered, Zara breathed. The Lee family took the marriage promise, but never fulfilled their side of the bargain. Does that void the contract? It should. At the very least, it gives us leverage. Zara was already reaching for her phone. "We need lawyers. Good ones. And we need to find out why the Kang family dropped that lawsuit." The answer to that question came from an unexpected source. 3 days later, a man appeared at the mansion gates. He was elderly, Korean, with a face weathered by time and secrets. He introduced himself as Park Sung-jin, a former lieutenant of Kang Jun-seo. "I heard the Lee woman is here," he said, his voice crackling with age. "Making demands. Claiming debts." Seon-ho received him in the study, Zara by his side. "You knew my grandfather?" "I was with him the night he signed that contract." Sung-jin's eyes were distant, lost in memory. "And I was with him when he discovered the Lee family's betrayal. He told them everything. The Lee family had never intended to honor their side of the agreement. The Incheon properties, the shipping rights, the money, it was all promises made to be broken. They had used the marriage contract to gain leverage over the Kang family, then reneged on every commitment. When Kang Jun-seo discovered the deception, he had been furious. He'd prepared to dissolve the contract entirely. But then, his daughter was kidnapped, Sung-jin said. Seon-ho's aunt. She was taken by men connected to the Lee family. They returned her unharmed, but the message was clear: pursue the lawsuit, and worse would follow. Zara felt sick. They used a child as leverage? The Lee family has no honor. They never have. Sung-jin's voice was bitter. Jun-seo dropped the lawsuit to protect his daughter. But he never forgot. And he never honored the marriage contract either. He considered it dissolved by their betrayal. Why didn't he tell anyone? Shame. Fear. The desire to protect his family from further attacks. Sung-jin shook his head. He took the truth to his grave. But I remembered. And when I heard what was happening, he reached into his coat and produced another document, old, fragile, but unmistakably official. This is his sworn statement, witnessed and notarized, declaring the contract void due to Lee family non-performance. He made it in secret, just in case it was ever needed. Zara took the document with trembling hands. It was exactly what they needed. Okay, we're getting to the good part now. If you're enjoying this story, hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what you think should happen to Yuna. Should she get a redemption arc or full villain consequences? Let me know. Now, let's see how this confrontation goes down. Lee Yuna returned exactly 1 month after her first visit. This time, she wasn't alone. She arrived with an entourage of lawyers, family representatives, and what Zara could only describe as muscle dressed in expensive suits. They clearly expected surrender. They were in for a surprise. The meeting was held in the formal receiving room, the same room where Dong-wook had once held court. But the power dynamics were very different now. Seon-ho sat at the head of the table, Zara at his right hand, Tae-jun and Imani at his left. Across from them, Yuna and her contingent arranged themselves with the confidence of people who believed they had already won. "I hope you've come to your senses," Yuna said, her tone almost bored. "My lawyers have prepared the marriage contracts. All you need to do is sign, and this unpleasantness can be behind us. Sean-ho leaned back in his chair. Before we discuss any contracts, I have a few questions. Questions? Yuna's brow arched. What questions? About the Incheon properties. The ones your family promised mine in 1962. The temperature in the room dropped. For the first time, Zara saw a crack in Yuna's perfect composure. It was small, just a flicker of her eyes, a slight tension in her jaw, but it was there. I don't know what you're talking about. Really? Zara spoke up, producing a folder of her own. Because I have extensive documentation here showing that the Lee family agreed to transfer significant holdings in Incheon as part of the original agreement. Holdings that were never transferred. Old disputes. Irrelevant to the current. Also, Zara continued, cutting her off, I have testimony from a witness who was present at the original negotiations. A witness who can confirm that the Lee family systematically failed to meet their obligations. Yuna's lawyers were starting to look uncomfortable. And finally, Zara said, producing the last document with a flourish, I have a sworn statement from Kang Juneseo himself, declaring the blood contract void due to Lee family breach. Witnessed, notarized, and legally binding under both Korean and American law. She slid the document across the table. Yuna picked it up, her mask finally crumbling as she read. Her hands trembled slightly. Her jaw clenched so hard Zara could see the muscles jumping. This can't be. It is. Seon-ho's voice was cold. Your family cheated mine, Yuna. You took our promise and gave nothing in return. And now you have the audacity to show up here, decades later, demanding that I honor an agreement you already destroyed. My grandfather told me. Your grandfather lied. Or he conveniently forgot to mention the parts that didn't serve his agenda. Seon-ho stood, and the power radiating off him filled the room. The blood contract is void. It has been void for 60 years. And even if it weren't, even if your family had honored every single promise, I would still never marry you. Because I love Zara. I choose Zara. And no contract, no threat, no amount of power will ever change that. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Yuna laughed. It was a strange sound, bitter, broken, almost hysterical. She laughed until tears streamed down her perfect face, until her elegant composure shattered completely. Do you know what's funny? She said, her voice cracking. I never wanted this either. This marriage, this contract, this whole absurd arrangement. I've spent my entire life being groomed for a man I've never met, a union I never chose. And now, she gestured at the document in her hand. Now I discover it was all for nothing. Built on lies my family told. Zara felt something unexpected, sympathy. Yuna, don't. Yuna held up her hand. Don't pity me. I broke into your home. I threatened your family. I don't deserve your compassion. She took a shaky breath. But I want you to know I didn't have a choice either. I was a pawn, just like you almost were. She stood, gathering the shreds of her dignity. The Lee family will not pursue this matter further, she said formally. The contract is void. The debt is cleared. She looked at Seon-ho, something almost like respect in her eyes. You're a lucky man. Don't waste it. And just like that, she was gone. 2 weeks later, Zara stood in front of a mirror, trying not to cry. Girl, if you ruin that makeup, I'm going to be so mad at you. Imani appeared behind her, stunning in a burgundy bridesmaid dress. Do you know how long it took to get your highlight that perfect? I can't help it. Zara laughed through her tears. I'm getting married. Actually, legally, officially married. Finally. Imani handed her a tissue. I was starting to think I'd have to forge documents myself. The ceremony was held in the mansion's garden, the same space where Seon-ho had built a family home over the cold formality of his father's reign. Fairy lights wound through the trees. White flowers perfumed the air. And every person Zara loved was there to witness the moment. Her mother had flown in from Nigeria, already crying before the music even started. Imani stood as her maid of honor, the twins with a babysitter nearby. Taejun served as best man, looking surprisingly emotional for a man who usually joked through everything. And at the end of the aisle stood Seon-ho. He wore a traditional Korean hanbok in deep navy, modernized with a tailored cut that suited him perfectly. His usual cold expression was gone, replaced by something open, vulnerable, and completely in love. Zara walked toward him on shaking legs. "You're beautiful," he whispered when she reached him. "You're not supposed to talk yet," she whispered back. "I don't care. You're beautiful." The ceremony blended traditions, Nigerian customs, Korean practices, and American elements woven together into something entirely their own. Seonho's vows were in both English and Korean. Zara's incorporated a proverb her grandmother used to say about finding the person whose chaos matches your calm. And when they kissed, finally, officially, legally, the garden erupted in cheers. "I can't believe we're married," Zara said later, during their first dance. "I can." Seonho held her close. "I've considered you my wife since the day I first kissed you. This just makes it official for everyone else." "You're such a romantic for a mafia boss." "Former mafia boss," he corrected. "I'm going fully legitimate, remember? No more shadows. Mostly legitimate." "Mostly," he agreed, smiling. "Some shadows are hard to leave behind." She rested her head on his shoulder, swaying to the music. "Is it weird that I'm almost grateful for Yuna?" she asked. "If she hadn't shown up, we might have waited even longer to do this. I prefer to think we would have gotten here eventually." He kissed her forehead. "But I'm glad it's done. I'm glad there's nothing left standing between us. Nothing except 3 babies who will probably interrupt our wedding night. Sora is with your mother. And Imani promised to keep the twins at her place." He pulled back, mischief in his dark eyes. "We have the whole night to ourselves." Zara felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Is that so?" "That is very much so." He leaned close, his lips brushing her ear. "And I intend to make use of every single minute." "Then what are we still doing here?" His laughter was warm and real as he led her off the dance floor, ignoring the catcalls from their guests. The months that followed were the happiest of Zara's life. She settled into her role as Mrs. Kang with surprising ease. Her consulting business thrived, her client list expanding beyond the Kang organization to include legitimate corporations seeking her forensic expertise. She had purpose, independence, and a career she was proud of. Sora was growing fast, already walking, already babbling words that might have been mama and might have been more cookies. She had her father's intensity and her mother's stubbornness, a combination that promised entertaining teenage years ahead. Imani and Taejun had their own wedding 3 months later, a huge celebration that somehow involved a Haitian compa band, a Korean drum troupe, and a guest list that spanned continents. The twins served as ring bearers, though served was generous given that Marcus threw the pillow and Matthew ate one of the ribbon decorations. "Our kids are chaos," Imani said happily, watching her sons toddle through the reception, destroying everything in their path. "Our kids are perfect," Taejun corrected, scooping up Matthew before he could pull down a flower arrangement. Chaotic perfection. The 2 families grew closer, their lives intertwining until it was hard to tell where one ended and the other began. Dinners together became weekly traditions. Playdates were constant. Zara and Imani's friendship, tested by secrets and drama, emerged stronger than ever. "Can you believe this is our life?" Imani asked one evening. They were on the patio of the mansion, watching the sun set over Atlanta while their children played on the lawn. "A year ago, we were scared pregnant women with no idea what we were doing. We still have no idea what we're doing," Zara pointed out. "True. But now we're doing it with money and hot husbands." "Imani." "What?" "It's true." Imani grinned. "I'm just saying, if you're going to figure out life, might as well do it in style." Zara laughed, watching Sora chase after the twins with determined little legs. "I wouldn't change anything," she said softly. "Not the fear, not the drama, not even Eunice showing up like a villain in a K-drama. All of it led here. To hot husbands and chaotic babies? To family." Zara smiled. "Real family. The kind you choose." Imani reached over and squeezed her hand. "Sisters," she said. "Sisters," Zara agreed. "Always." 6 months after the wedding, Zara started feeling sick. At first, she thought it was food poisoning, some bad takeout, maybe, or a stomach bug going around. But when the nausea persisted, when certain smells started making her gag, when she found herself exhausted by mid-afternoon. "No," she said out loud, staring at the pregnancy test in her bathroom. "No, no, no." Two pink lines stared back at her. "Zara." Seonho's voice came through the door. "Are you okay? You've been in there a while." She opened the door, still holding the test. He saw it immediately. His eyes widened. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. "Is that?" "Yes." "Are we?" "Yes." "Again?" "Apparently yes." They stared at each other. Then Seonho let out a whoop of joy, lifted her off her feet, and spun her around until she was laughing and crying and begging him to stop before she threw up on his expensive shirt. "Another baby," he said, his face luminous with happiness. "Sora's going to be a big sister." "Sora's going to be jealous," Zara corrected. "She likes being the center of attention." "She'll adjust." He pulled her close, one hand already moving to her belly. "I can't believe it." "Another miracle. You know this means we'll be even more outnumbered, right? 3 kids to 2 adults. We'll manage." Famous last words. He kissed her, long and sweet. "I love you, Mrs. Kong." "I love you too, Mr. Kong." She smiled against his lips. "Even when you get me pregnant without warning." To be fair, you were also there. Details. The news spread fast. Imani screamed so loudly when she heard that both twins started crying. Taejun had to spend 20 minutes calming everyone down before the household returned to normal. "We have to be pregnant together again," Imani declared. "It's tradition now." "It's not tradition, it's coincidence," Zara argued. "It's tradition." "Taejun, make me pregnant." "Can we discuss this privately?" Taejun asked, looking mortified. "No. We discuss everything publicly in this family. It's our charm." 3 weeks later, Imani announced her own pregnancy. "I told you," she said smugly, waving her positive test. "Tradition. You're insane." "I'm committed." "There's a difference." And so, once again, the two best friends found themselves navigating pregnancy together, the morning sickness, the cravings, the midnight runs for bizarre food combinations. This time, there was no fear, no secrets, no drama threatening to tear them apart. Well, mostly no drama. "I swear to God," Zara said one afternoon, both of them 8 months pregnant and miserable in the summer heat, "if you steal my last mango again, I'm filing for divorce from our friendship." "You can't divorce a friendship." "Watch me." That mango was practically calling my name. It was MY mango. It was calling MY name. Seonho and Taejun watched from a safe distance. "Should we intervene?" Taejun asked. "Absolutely not." Seonho shook his head. "I've learned to never get between pregnant women and their fruit." "Smart man." "I've been well trained." History repeated itself on a warm September evening. Once again, both women went into labor within hours of each other. Once again, the hospital cleared an entire floor for the Kang family. And once again, 2 panicking fathers proved completely useless in the delivery room. "You did this to me." Zara groaned through a contraction. "I know, I'm sorry." "Stop apologizing and hold my hand." "I am holding your hand." "Hold it better." In the next room, similar conversations were happening. "If you tell me to breathe one more time," Imani started. "I wasn't going to say breathe." "What were you going to say?" "Breathe." "I knew it." For hours later, 2 more babies entered the world. Zara gave birth to a boy strong, loud, with a full head of dark hair and his father's intense gaze. They named him Daniel June, the middle name honoring the grandfather whose hidden document had saved them all. Imani welcomed a girl, delicate, curious, with her mother's beautiful complexion and her father's charming smile. They named her Celeste Marie, after Imani's grandmother in Haiti. And when the 2 families gathered in Zara's hospital room, babies cradled carefully, toddlers underfoot, everyone exhausted but radiantly happy. Zara looked around and felt her heart might burst. "We did it," she said softly. Seonho looked at her, Daniel sleeping in his arms, Sora climbing on his lap. "Did what?" "Built a family. A real one." She gestured at the chaos around them, Imani arguing with Taejun about something, the twins trying to peek at the new babies, her mother video calling relatives in Nigeria to show off her grandson. Look at this. A year ago, I was a forensic accountant who'd never had a parking ticket. Now I'm married to a former mafia boss with 2 kids and the most insane extended family in Georgia. Regrets? She smiled, reaching for his hand. Not a single one. He leaned over to kiss her, careful not to disturb the baby. Good, he said against her lips. Because you're stuck with us now. Promise? Promise. And watching the sunset paint the hospital room in shades of gold, surrounded by the family she'd found and the future they'd built together, Zara Adeyemi King knew that this was exactly where she was meant to be. Home. Not a place, but a feeling. The feeling of belonging exactly where she was. The annual Kong Baptiste family reunion had gotten out of hand. What started as a simple backyard barbecue had evolved into a 3-day event involving catering, entertainment, and, at last count, 47 guests. The mansion grounds had been transformed into a wonderland of activities, bouncy castles, face painting, a petting zoo that Sora had insisted on, and a bubble station that the twins were systematically destroying. Zara stood on the patio, watching the chaos unfold. Sora, now 6, was bossing around every child in sight with the natural authority of a future CEO. Daniel, 5, followed her everywhere, her loyal shadow and occasional co-conspirator. Marcus and Matthew, also 6, were using their twin telepathy to cause trouble in 2 places simultaneously. And little Celeste, 5, was charming every adult present with her dimples and dramatic sighs. Penny for your thoughts? Imani appeared beside her, 2 glasses of wine in hand. Just thinking about how much has changed. Zara accepted the glass. Remember when it was just us, scared and pregnant, not knowing if we could trust anyone? I remember thinking I'd ruined both our lives. Imani's expression was soft. I still can't believe you forgave me for all of that. The lies, the secrets. You're my sister. Zara shrugged. Sisters fight. Sisters forgive. Sisters end up married to Korean brothers and raising their chaotic children together on a massive estate in Atlanta. As one does. They clinked glasses, laughing. Across the lawn, Seon-ho and Taejun were attempting to supervise the children, which mostly involved chasing after them and looking frazzled. He's so different now, Zara said, watching her husband. The ice prince she'd first met had melted completely, replaced by a devoted father who had mastered the art of the dad joke and could braid Sora's hair in 3 different styles. They both are. Imani watched Taejun scoop up Celeste, spinning her until she shrieked with laughter. Who would have thought those terrifying mafia brothers would turn into the world's softest dads? Love changes people. Yes. Imani smiled. It really does. They watched in comfortable silence as the party continued around them. So, Imani said eventually, a mischievous glint in her eye. I have some news. Oh no. What kind of news? I'm pregnant. Zara nearly choked on her wine. Again? Again. Imani was grinning. Taejun wants to try for another girl. Balance out the testosterone. You're insane. You're certifiably insane. Probably. But here's the thing. Imani's grin widened. You're looking a little green yourself lately. Anything you want to share? Zara opened her mouth to deny it. Then she thought about the exhaustion she'd been feeling. The way certain smells had started bothering her. The missed period she'd been studiously ignoring. Oh my God, she whispered. I knew it. Imani grabbed her hands. I knew it. The tradition continues. This isn't a tradition. This is a fertility cult. Same thing. Come on, Imani was already pulling her toward the house. We're finding pregnancy tests right now. Imani, we're in the middle of a party. The party can wait. This is more important. Move it, Kong. As she was dragged inside, Zara caught Seon-ho's eye across the lawn. He looked at her questioningly. She shrugged helplessly, making a "your guess is as good as mine" gesture. He laughed, blowing her a kiss. And despite the chaos, despite the uncertainty of what another test might reveal, Zara felt nothing but joy. Because whatever came next, another baby, another adventure, another challenge, she wouldn't face it alone. She had Seon-ho. She had Imani. She had this beautiful, messy, imperfect family they'd built together. And that was more than enough. That was everything. And that, my loves, is the end of Zara and Seonho's story. We made it through the drama, the betrayal, the mafia threats, and the evil in-laws, and our girls came out on top with their families intact and their happily ever after secured. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button until it breaks. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story. Drop a comment telling me, did you want Yuna to have a redemption arc, or did you want her to face more consequences? And what kind of story do you want to see next? More Afro-Korean romance? Different cultures? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, for supporting, and for being part of this community. You guys are the reason I do this, and I appreciate every single one of you. Until next time, stay blessed, stay beautiful, and remember, the best love stories are the ones where you choose your family. See you in the next one. 2 hearts.